Hello, everyone, and good evening. My name is Dan Pavis, and this is the first of the video discussion assignments for this semester. In this video, I want to discuss the concept of Western civilization and how it continues to remain relevant in modern contemporary society for many different reasons. It occurred to me that I could discuss the West's lasting influence on ideas and concepts such as democracy, on economic systems, religious influence and development, cultural influence, and many other significant aspects of societal development. However, after completing the readings for this week, I was struck that perhaps the most important and influential idea is that Western civilization provides a framework for how contemporary societies worldwide have come to understand the concepts of freedom and liberty. It seemed to be a main or central theme in several of the readings for this week. So I chose to put forward a few examples as my argument for why the West is still relevant in contemporary society. The first example was Dr. Roberts' video, Why a History of Western Freedoms. Dr. Roberts stressed the ongoing tension between liberty and freedom, and that liberty and freedom, it seemed to play a central role in the development of Western civilization, and that we should work to view the two as separate items. It was a very good video, and in his conclusion, Dr. Roberts, which I agreed with his sentiment, was that we should not dismiss the terrible events that can be found in Western history, that we should recognize them for what they were, but that we should also be willing to recognize that the West is unique and different from other global civilizations, and in the end has helped to improve the lives of billions of people worldwide with lasting influence. The second article was Reflections on Ancient and Modern Freedom by Alexander Rosenthal. Rosenthal starts with a quote from Edmund Burke that I thought was very fitting for the theme, which is, "What is liberty without virtue and wisdom? It is the greatest of all possible evils." He introduces through Isaiah Berlin the concept of negative freedom, which was very interesting to me. I had not heard of it before. And one of his quotes is, "By contrast, it is through the moral disciplines that one acquires freedom, and that freedom and virtue therefore exist in a necessary relationship." He mentions the work of Aristotle, who stated that individuals are free in the sense of rational and virtuous self-mastery, self-discipline. And it resonated. It might not be solely a Western idea, but it certainly resonated. His ideas resonated with me as being distinctly Western. It reminded me of, in case anyone is interested, in a modern motivational speaker, which could be another example of its relevance in contemporary society. But there's a modern motivational speaker named Jocko Willink, and he wrote a book entitled "Discipline Equals Freedom," which is very similar to all of these ideas. So if you're interested, there's also a YouTube video. The last source that I chose as my example for why the West is still relevant, the concept is still relevant, was by Bradley Birzer, and it was, "What exactly is the West?" Birzer argues that long before the manifestation of the concept of even Western civilization, the idea of Europa mythologically was long discussed as a concept of freedom. So even before the West is developed, the concept of freedom is already there in Europa, before there's a Europe even. Birzer states, that there are critics of the West. He says that people would claim that the West is racist, sexist, misogynist, and imperialist. And he adds that the critics can be as emotionally violent as they are intellectually dull, which I thought was a funny statement. He quotes authors that you think of when you mention, you think of them as being Western authors, men like St. Thomas Aquinas, St. Augustine. He says when you mention those two, you inevitably must reference Plato and Aristotle, and therefore linking the classical world to the Western world. And he also says a distinctly Western concept is the idea of self-sacrifice. Through self-mastery and self-discipline, you're capable of self-sacrifice. He states several examples, including King Leonidas at Thermopylae, Socrates drinking the hemlock, the murder of Cicero by Mark Antony, and even Jesus. So all good examples of how these concepts of liberty and freedom are linked and still relevant today in contemporary society. In conclusion, I think one more important point noted by both Birzer and Rosenthal is that Western civilization ultimately insists that the love of wisdom and universal principles are essential and foundational principle. I think if only for this reason, the concept of Western civilization has a tremendously profound and also a positive effect on our contemporary global society. Thank you very much for your time, and take care.